The smell of fear and despair filled the lower levels of Nexus Station. Deep beneath the shining trading floors where merchants made deals worth millions of credits, something darker happened in the shadows. The slave markets operated here, hidden from the clean upper decks where respectable aliens conducted their business. Huni sat on the cold metal floor, her wrists bound by energy chains that hummed with electric power. The chains were designed to hurt if she moved too much. She had learned this lesson 3 days ago when the slavers first put them on her. Now she sat perfectly still, watching the other captives around her. To her left was a massive Vorthak warrior, his blue-scaled skin covered in ritual scars. Even chained, he looked dangerous. His species was known across the galaxy for their strength and fighting skills. Someone would pay good money for him. On her right sat a Yilani female, her silver skin gleaming under the harsh lights. The Yilani were fast and deadly, with reflexes that could dodge laser fire. They made perfect assassins and bodyguards. She would sell quickly, too. But Hyune was just human, small, weak, and useless by galactic standards. She knew what the buyers thought when they looked at her. Humans lived short lives compared to other species. They had no special powers, no enhanced strength, no natural weapons. They were considered the bottom of the galactic food chain. The auction hall filled with buyers as the day's sale began. Hyune recognized some of the species from her time studying alien cultures. Before the slavers took her, she had been a scientist. Now she was just another piece of property waiting to be sold. Keth merchants floated on their anti-gravity platforms, their 4 arms gesturing as they discussed prices. Their species controlled much of the galaxy's trade, and they always looked for cheap labor. But even they seemed uninterested in the human section. Vorthak military contractors stood in groups, their imposing forms casting long shadows. They bought warriors and soldiers, beings who could fight in their endless wars. They barely glanced at Hyune. Rich collectors from a dozen different species wandered through the viewing area. Some looked for exotic pets, others wanted servants with special skills. None of them stopped to examine the humans. The auctioneer was a Keth trader named Vex Thul. His translator device made his voice echo through the hall in multiple languages. He moved through the lots quickly, eager to sell the valuable merchandise first. Lot 832, Vex Thul announced. Vorthak warrior, battle-tested, age 47 standard years. Enhanced combat reflexes, weapons training in 12 different systems. Opening bid 5,000 credits, bids came fast and aggressive. The warrior sold for 28,000 credits to a Yilani military contractor. The next few lots went just as quickly. A Keth engineer, a Zephyrian pilot, a crystalline data analyst. All valuable, all wanted. Then came the humans. Lot 843, Vex Thul said, his voice showing less enthusiasm. Human male, age 32. Basic technical skills. Opening bid 200 credits. The human sold for 400 credits to a mining company. He would spend the rest of his short life working in dangerous asteroid mines. Lot 844. Human female, age 28. Domestic training. Opening bid 150 credits. She went for 300 credits to a wealthy Yilani family. She would clean their house and care for their children until she died of old age. Hyune watched her fellow humans being sold like livestock. Each sale felt like another nail in her coffin. She was Lot 847, one of the last humans to be auctioned. By the time they reached her, most buyers would have spent their money on more valuable slaves. Lot 845, human male, age 35, mining experience. Opening bid 100 credits, the pattern continued. Humans sold for scraps, bought by buyers who needed disposable workers for dangerous jobs. No one expected humans to live long anyway. Finally, her turn came. Lot 847, Vex Thul announced, sounding bored. Human female, designation Hyune. Captured from the Rim worlds during Research Station raid. Age 29 standard years. No special abilities noted. Basic education. Opening bid 50 credits. Hyune kept her eyes down as Vex Thul described her like she was a piece of broken machinery. 50 credits was insultingly low, but she knew it was probably more than she was worth to these buyers. The silence stretched on. Hyune could hear whispered conversations as buyers discussed other business. No one was interested in a weak human female with no useful skills. Vex Thul waited the required 30 seconds, then started to close the lot. No bids received. This lot will be processed for, I'll take her. The voice came from the back of the auction hall. It was calm and steady, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Hyunei looked up for the first time, trying to see who had spoken. A human male walked forward through the crowd of alien buyers. He was average height for his species, with dark hair and weathered skin that suggested he spent time in space. His clothes were simple but well-maintained, the practical outfit of a spacer or trader. The alien buyers turned to stare at him. Whispered conversations started immediately. It was unusual but not unknown for humans to buy other humans. Usually it was wealthy human traders buying relatives or lovers out of slavery. But this human didn't look wealthy, and he showed no recognition when he looked at Hyunei. "Your bid is 50 credits?" Vexthul asked, his forearms moving in what Hyunei recognized as Keth amusement. The aliens found it funny that this human would waste money on such worthless merchandise. "That's correct," the human replied. Some of the buyers laughed. A few made comments about soft skins helping their own kind. The general attitude was one of amused contempt. Let the humans waste their money on each other. It made no difference to anyone important. Vexthul processed the sale quickly, eager to move on to more valuable lots. The payment went through, and ownership of Hyunei transferred to the unknown human male. A guard brought Hyunei forward, her energy chains now keyed to her new owner's control device. She expected to be handed over like a piece of cargo, but something unexpected happened. The human took the control device from the guard, looked at it for a moment, then pressed several buttons. The energy chains around her wrists deactivated and fell away. Hyunei stared at her freed hands in shock. Around them, the alien buyers began to pay attention. This was not normal behavior. The human stepped closer and spoke to her in Korean, his voice quiet enough that the nearby aliens couldn't hear clearly. "You're free to go," he said simply. Hyunei's mind couldn't process what she was hearing. "What?" she whispered back. "I said you're free. There's a human settlement on Kepler 442b. I can arrange transport if you want." She stood there frozen, unable to believe what was happening. This stranger had bought her freedom and was offering to help her start a new life. It made no sense. The alien buyers were starting to lose interest. Whatever strange human ritual they thought they were witnessing, it wasn't entertaining enough to hold their attention. They began to disperse, moving on to other business, but Hyunei didn't move. She studied the face of her unexpected savior, searching for some explanation. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you buy me just to free me? You don't even know me." The human's expression grew serious, and for a moment she saw something in his eyes that reminded her of her own reflection during her darkest days in captivity, understanding, recognition, of shared pain. "Because I've seen what humans are capable of when they're not underestimated," he said, "and because everyone deserves a choice." Jinwoo walked calmly toward the payment station while dozens of alien eyes followed his movements. The buyers who remained in the auction hall watched with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. They whispered among themselves, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. "Soft skins buying their own kind," muttered a Vorthak contractor to his companion. "Such strange behavior." "Perhaps it is a mating ritual," suggested a Keth merchant, his forearms gesturing in what his species considered humor. "Their customs are so primitive." Jinwoo ignored the comments. He had heard worse things said about humans during his years traveling the galaxy. The translator devices worn by most aliens automatically converted their words into galactic standard, so he understood every insult and joke. But he had learned long ago that showing anger or offense only reinforced their beliefs about human weakness. Vexthul processed the transaction with barely hidden contempt. His multiple eyes looked Jinwoo up and down, clearly wondering why anyone would waste 50 credits on such worthless merchandise. "Payment confirmed," the Keth auctioneer announced. "Ownership transfer complete. The female is yours to do with as you please." The casual way Vexthul spoke about Hyunei as property made Jinwoo's jaw tighten, but he kept his expression neutral. Getting angry would accomplish nothing except to entertain the aliens who expected humans to be emotional and irrational. As Hyunei was brought forward by a guard, Jinwoo studied her more carefully. She was smaller than him, which was typical for human females, but he could see intelligence in her eyes. The way she had observed the auction, the careful attention she paid to different alien species, this was not the behavior of a simple laborer or domestic servant. The guard handed Jinwoo the control device for the energy chains. The small rectangular device felt heavy in his hand, not because of its weight, but because of what it represented. The power to cause pain or restrict movement with the press of a button. The ultimate symbol of one being's control over another. Without hesitation, Jinwoo pressed the release sequence he had memorized years ago. The energy chains deactivated and fell to the floor with a metallic clatter that echoed through the auction hall. The reaction was immediate. Conversation stopped. Alien heads turned toward them. Even the guards paused in their duties to watch what was happening. Jinwoo stepped closer to Hyunei and switched to Korean, speaking quietly so the universal translators warned by nearby aliens wouldn't pick up their conversation clearly. "You're free to go," he said in their shared language. Hyunei stared at him with wide eyes. "What?" "I said you're free. There's a human settlement on Kepler 442b. I can arrange transport if you'd like." The aliens watching them grew increasingly confused. They could see the humans talking, but without understanding the language, they couldn't follow the conversation. To them, it looked like some sort of ritualistic exchange. "Is this some kind of human ceremony?" asked a Yelani observer to her companion. "Perhaps he is explaining her new duties," the other Yelani replied. "Their social structures are so complicated." But Hyunei remained frozen in place, staring at Jinwoo as if he had spoken in an alien language she didn't understand. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you buy me just to free me?" Jinwoo's expression became serious. He glanced around at the dispersing crowd of aliens, most of whom were losing interest in what they assumed was a boring human interaction. "Because I've seen what humans are capable of when they're not underestimated," he said quietly, "and because everyone deserves a choice." Hyunei searched his face looking for deception or hidden motives. In the slave markets, kindness was often a trap. Masters who appeared gentle at first often turned cruel once they had their property in private. "I don't understand," she said. "You spent your money to buy me and now you want nothing in return?" "I want something," Jinwoo admitted. "I want you to be free to make your own choices about your life. That's worth 50 credits to me." Around them, the auction hall was nearly empty now. The next sale wouldn't begin for several hours, and most buyers had moved on to other business. A few guards remained, but they paid little attention to the two humans talking quietly in the corner. "What's your name?" Hyunei asked. "Jinwoo. Jinwoo Park. I'm Hyunei. Hyunei Kim." She paused, then added, "I was Dr. Hyunei Kim before they took me." Jinwoo's eyebrows rose slightly. "Doctor?" "Xenobiologist. I was studying alien plant life on a research station when the raiders came." Her voice became bitter. 3 years of captivity and no one ever asked what I did before. They just saw a human female and assumed I was good for cleaning or basic labor. "The raiders who took you, were they working alone or part of a larger operation?" The question surprised Hyunei. "Why do you ask?" Jinwoo looked around the mostly empty auction hall, then back at her. "Because I've been tracking several raider groups that specifically target human settlements. The attacks have been increasing over the past 2 years. You're not just a trader, are you?" Hyunei realized. "I trade when I need to, but no, that's not my primary job." Jinwoo pulled out a small datapad and showed her some information on the screen. "I work with a network of humans throughout the galaxy. We help our people when we can, and we gather information about threats to human communities." Hyunei read the data on his screen. It showed raid patterns, slave market prices, and shipping routes used by various criminal organizations. "This is sophisticated intelligence work," she said, impressed despite her caution. "How long have you been doing this?" 5 years. Ever since I left Earth military service and came out to the Rim worlds." "Earth military?" Hyunei looked at him with new understanding. "Your former special forces?" Jinwoo nodded. "The kind of training that makes you useful in situations like this." "And the network you mentioned? How many humans are involved?" "More than the aliens suspect. We've learned that being underestimated can be an advantage. While they see us as weak and harmless, we've been building connections and gathering resources." Hyunei felt a spark of hope for the first time in years. "What you're describing? It sounds like the beginning of organized resistance." "Not resistance," Jinwoo corrected. "Integration. We're not trying to fight the galactic community. We're trying to find our proper place in it. But first we need to stop the systematic targeting of human settlements." "The raiders who took me," Hyunei said slowly, "they weren't random pirates. They had detailed information about our research station. They knew exactly when our security would be weakest, and they came prepared for human biology and psychology." Jinwoo's expression darkened. That matches what we found at other attack sites. Someone is providing these raiders with intelligence about human settlements. Someone with access to galactic databases and shipping records. Someone who wants humans removed from certain areas of space. They looked at each other, both understanding the implications. This wasn't random crime, it was systematic persecution disguised as piracy. The settlement on Kepler 442b that you mentioned, Hyun-I said. Is it safe? As safe as any human community can be right now. They have good defenses and early warning systems. But Hyun-I, Jinwoo paused, I think you could help us with more than just reaching safety. Your background in xenobiology, your experience with different alien species, we need people with your expertise. Hyun-I considered his words. She had spent 3 years as a victim, powerless and afraid. The chance to fight back, to use her knowledge to protect other humans, was tempting. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come with me to my ship, meet some of my contacts, learn about what we're really facing out here, then decide if you want to help us figure out who's behind these attacks. And if I say no, then I take you to Kepler 442b, and you start whatever life you choose to build there. No obligations, no pressure. Hyun-I looked around the empty auction hall one last time. 3 years ago she had been captured and sold like an animal. Today a stranger had bought her freedom and offered her a chance to fight back against the forces that had destroyed her life. All right, Jinwoo Park, she said. Show me your ship. 3 days later, Hyun-I sat in the common area of Jinwoo's cargo ship, watching the stars change as they traveled through hyperspace. The ship was small but comfortable. More importantly, it belonged to someone who treated her like a person instead of property. Jinwoo had been kind and respectful since buying her freedom. He gave her clean clothes, good food, and privacy to recover from her years in captivity. But Hyun-I could tell there was more to him than he had revealed. The way he moved, the way he watched for threats, the sophisticated equipment hidden in his simple cargo ship, Jinwoo was definitely not just a trader. Tell me about your research, Jinwoo said as he joined her with 2 cups of real coffee. I studied how different alien species adapted to their homeworlds, Hyun-I explained. Each species developed specific advantages that helped them survive on their planet. The Keth evolved on a world with low gravity and high radiation, so they developed multiple arms and resistance to energy. The Vorthak came from a heavy gravity world with toxic air, so they became strong and developed enhanced lungs. But those advantages also created weaknesses, Jinwoo observed. Exactly. The Keth can't function well in normal gravity for long periods. The Vorthak need breathing equipment on most worlds. Every major species is perfectly adapted for their home environment, but that makes them vulnerable everywhere else. Jinwoo leaned forward with interest. Every species except humans. Right. Earth was a dangerous world that kept changing. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor strikes, climate changes. Humans survived by learning to adapt to anything instead of being perfect at one thing, and the other species see our adaptability as weakness because we're not the strongest or fastest at anything. They don't understand that being good at many things is better than being perfect at one thing, Hyun-I agreed. A Vorthak warrior can defeat any human in single combat, but put him in a situation his species never faced and he doesn't know what to do. A human in the same situation would study the problem and find a solution. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency signal from the ship's communication system. Jinwoo moved quickly to answer it. A desperate voice filled the cabin, speaking in the musical language of the Yilani. The ship's translator converted the words to galactic standard. This is Commander Silvara of the Yilani patrol vessel Swiftblade. We are under attack by unknown raiders near Tau Ceti. Our ship is badly damaged and we have many wounded. Any vessel receiving this message, please help us. Jinwoo was already changing course before the message ended. Hyun-I watched him work the controls with the skill of an experienced pilot. What are you doing? She asked. Going to help them? Jinwoo, this could be a trap. We don't know who attacked them or why. Maybe it's a trap, but someone needs help and we're the closest ship. He looked at her seriously. This is what I meant about human nature. Any other species would calculate the risks and decide it's not their problem. Humans see someone in trouble and go to help. That's not always the smart thing to do. No, it's not always smart, but it's what makes us human. And sometimes it's exactly what the situation needs. 20 minutes later, they found the Yilani ship floating dead in space. The elegant vessel that should have been bright silver was now dark and scarred by weapon fire. Emergency lights blinked weakly along its damaged hull. Their engines are destroyed, Jinwoo reported as he scanned the ship. Life support is failing. I'm reading 15 survivors, but their life signs are getting weaker. Can we dock with them? Their main docking port is damaged. We'll have to use the emergency airlocks and go across in suits. Jinwoo put on his environmental suit and prepared to cross to the damaged ship. Hyunhee insisted on going with him. You need someone with medical knowledge, she argued. Xenobiology includes understanding alien physiology. I might be able to help their wounded. The inside of the Yilani ship was a disaster. Bodies floated in the corridors where the artificial gravity had failed. The air was filled with smoke and the smell of burned electronics. Jinwoo went to work trying to restore power to essential systems while Hyunhee looked for survivors. She found Commander Silvara and her remaining crew in the ship's medical bay. The Yilani commander was barely conscious. Her normally silver skin turned a sickly gray color. The other survivors showed similar symptoms: difficulty breathing, discoloration, and obvious pain. What happened to you? Hyunhee asked in careful Yilani. Silvara's eyes widened with surprise at hearing her own language spoken by a human. Raiders, she whispered. They use some kind of poison gas, made our enhanced immune systems attack our own bodies. Hyunhee felt cold fear run through her. She had seen similar symptoms before, but only in laboratory experiments on animal subjects, never in living people. Jinwoo, she called through the ship's communication system. You need to see this. When Jinwoo reached the medical bay, Hyunhee showed him the readings she had taken with a portable medical scanner. This isn't random piracy, she explained. The weapon they used is specifically designed to target Yilani biology. It tricks their enhanced immune systems into attacking their own organs. Someone created this poison specifically to kill Yilani. Jinwoo studied the medical data. Can you treat it? I think so. Their medical supplies include the basic compounds I need to make an antidote. But Jinwoo, this is very advanced biological warfare. Whoever made this weapon understands Yilani genetics better than most Yilani scientists do. The same people who gave detailed information to the raiders who attacked your research station. It has to be connected. Someone is developing weapons to kill specific alien species, and they're testing them on targets that won't be missed or investigated. While Hyunhee worked on creating an antidote, Jinwoo helped repair the ship's essential systems. The Yilani crew watched in amazement as the two humans worked to save their lives. They had been taught that humans were primitive and barely intelligent. But these two were demonstrating skills that impressed even experienced Yilani officers. The antidote that Hyunhee created was simple, but effective. It wouldn't completely cure the poison's effects, but it would stop the immune system attacks and allow the Yilani to recover naturally. As Commander Silvara's condition improved, she asked the question that Hyunhee had been expecting. How does a human know enough about Yilani biology to save our lives? She's not just any human, Jinwoo replied. She's Dr. Hyunhee Kim, one of Earth's leading experts on alien biology. She was kidnapped from her research station and sold into slavery because no one bothered to find out who she really was before judging her worth. Silvara looked at Hyunhee with new understanding and respect. You saved us. Your attackers made a mistake, Hyunhee explained. They created a weapon designed to kill Yilani, but they never considered that a worthless human might understand your biology well enough to create a treatment. They underestimated you. Everyone underestimates humans, Jinwoo said. That's been working against us for years, but maybe it's time we started using it as an advantage. As the Yilani ship's systems came back online, Silvara shared more disturbing information. This was the fourth attack in recent months using biological weapons designed for specific species. Each attack showed increased sophistication and effectiveness. Someone is perfecting these weapons, she said, and if they succeed, they could wipe out entire species without anyone knowing it was murder rather than disease. Hyunhee looked at the data Silvara provided, and a terrible pattern became clear. The attacks had started with human settlements, small colonies that disappeared without anyone investigating too carefully. Then the attackers had moved on to other species, using what they learned from killing humans to develop more effective weapons. We have to stop this, she said. We will, Jinwoo replied. But first we need to understand who's behind it and why. The answer to that question would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The investigation into Commander Silvara's attack led to discoveries that changed everything. As her ship's computers came back online, she shared intelligence reports that painted a terrifying picture of coordinated attacks across the galaxy. "Look at this pattern," Silvara said, displaying a galactic map on her ship's main screen. 12 attacks in the past 6 months, all using biological weapons designed for specific species. Human colonies, Keth trading posts, Vorthak military outposts, even some Yilani research stations. Hyunai studied the data carefully. Her scientific training helped her see connections that others might miss. The timing isn't random. Each attack happens after the previous species' biological data has been fully analyzed. Someone is learning from each attack and using that knowledge to create better weapons. Jin Woo connected his ship's computer to the Yilani database and shared information that his network had been gathering for months. When the data combined, it revealed something none of them had expected. The attack started right after the Galactic Council began discussing increased human settlement rights in the outer systems, he observed. Someone doesn't want humans expanding through the galaxy. But why attack other species too? Silvara asked. To test the weapons, Yune realized with growing horror. They're using attacks on other species to perfect biological weapons they plan to use against humanity on a massive scale. The evidence was overwhelming once they knew what to look for. Financial records showed payments from major galactic corporations to research facilities that specialized in biological warfare. Shipping manifests revealed the movement of laboratory equipment and biological samples between attack sites. Communication intercepts proved that raiders were receiving detailed intelligence about their targets before each attack. This isn't random crime, Jinwoo said grimly. It's systematic genocide disguised as piracy. The conspiracy involved some of the galaxy's most powerful organizations. Keth trading companies provided funding and transportation. Vorthak military contractors supplied weapons and mercenaries. Yilani research corporations developed the biological weapons, all of them working together toward the same goal, preventing human expansion and eventually eliminating humanity entirely. But why? Silvara demanded. Humans aren't a threat to anyone. You're peaceful traders and workers. That's exactly why we're dangerous, Hyunai explained. We're not trying to conquer anyone or take their territory. We just want to live and work alongside other species, and we're good at it. Jinwoo activated his network's secure communication system. Within minutes, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. The scope of human integration into alien society was much larger than anyone had realized. We've been invisible for decades, Jinwoo explained. Working as maintenance crew, translators, medical assistants, cargo handlers, domestic workers. Jobs that other species consider beneath their notice. But those jobs gave us access to everything. Technology, communications, transportation systems, even military installations. You've been spying on us? Silvara asked, but she didn't sound angry. She sounded impressed. Not spying. Learning. We needed to understand how galactic civilization worked if we were going to find our place in it. But along the way we discovered that we were becoming indispensable. The reports flowing in from Jinwoo's network proved his point. On Keth Prime, human technicians maintained the planetary communication grid. On Vorthak military bases, human medics treated wounded soldiers with techniques that Vorthak doctors couldn't match. On Yilani research stations, human assistants kept complex experiments running smoothly. You're everywhere, Silvara breathed as she reviewed the data. We had to be, Hyunai said. When every other species sees you as worthless, the only way to survive is to make yourself necessary. And the people behind this conspiracy realized that, Jinwoo added. They saw that humans were becoming integrated into galactic civilization in ways that couldn't be easily removed. So they decided to eliminate us before we became too important to kill. The plan they developed to expose the conspiracy was dangerous and ambitious. Using Jinwoo's network of human operatives, they would simultaneously reveal the plot on dozens of worlds while demonstrating humanity's true capabilities. We need perfect timing, Jinwoo explained. If we move too early, they'll have time to cover their tracks. If we wait too long, they'll complete their genocide program. Silvara agreed to help by providing official Yilani support for their operation. Her military authority would give them access to the Galactic Council and a platform to present their evidence. This could change everything, Hyuni said as they prepared to leave the Tau Ceti system. If we succeed, humans will finally be seen as equals instead of property. And if we fail? Silvara asked. Then the galaxy loses the people who have been holding it together, Jinwoo replied, and billions of humans die for the crime of being useful. As their ships traveled toward the Galactic Council Station, secure communications flowed across the galaxy. Human workers who had been ignored and underestimated for years prepared to reveal their true importance to galactic civilization. On Keth Prime, Dong-hyun worked as a maintenance supervisor in the Planetary Defense Center. The Keth managers barely acknowledged his existence, but he had complete access to their most secure systems. When the time came, he would show them how dependent they had become on human expertise. On Vorthak Stronghold 7, Mi-young served as a translator during military planning sessions. The Vorthak commanders thought she was too simple to understand military strategy, but she had been recording and analyzing their plans for 3 years. Her revelations would expose corruption and incompetence throughout their military hierarchy. On Yilani Nexus, Taeho worked in the medical research division, cataloging biological samples that Yilani scientists considered too routine to examine personally. He had been quietly studying the samples and had discovered evidence of illegal biological weapons research that could destroy several major pharmaceutical corporations. Your people are remarkable, Silvara observed as she reviewed the intelligence that Jinwoo's network had gathered. How did you coordinate all of this without anyone noticing? The same way humans have always survived, Hyunai answered. By working together and helping each other, even when we're scattered across impossible distances. And by being underestimated, Jinwoo added. When people think you're too stupid to be dangerous, they don't bother watching what you do. The Galactic Council Station appeared ahead of them, a massive structure that housed representatives from hundreds of species. Soon, those representatives would learn the truth about the conspiracy against humanity. More importantly, they would discover what humanity really meant to galactic civilization. Are you nervous? Silvara asked as they approached the station. Terrified, Hyunai admitted, but also excited. For the first time since I was captured, I feel like we might actually win. We will win, Jinwoo said with quiet confidence, because we have something the conspirators never understood. What's that? We have each other, and we have allies like Commander Silvara who are willing to stand with us when it matters. As they docked at the council station, the final phase of their plan began. Across the galaxy, humans in positions that aliens had dismissed as insignificant prepared to show the universe what they were really capable of. The conspiracy to exterminate humanity was about to face the one thing it couldn't defeat: the truth about human worth and human determination. The galaxy was about to learn that slaves could become partners, that the weak could be strong, and that sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones you never bothered to notice. The Galactic Council Station was the largest artificial structure Hyunai had ever seen. The massive wheel-shaped station orbited the neutral world of Harmony Prime, housing representatives from hundreds of different species. As their ship approached the docking bays, she felt the weight of what they were about to attempt. I've never addressed the council before, she admitted to Jinwoo as they prepared to disembark. Neither have I, he replied. But we're not just speaking for ourselves. We're speaking for every human who has ever been dismissed, enslaved, or killed because someone thought we were worthless. Commander Silvara had used her military authority to arrange an emergency session with the Council's Security Committee. Representatives from the major species would gather to hear evidence of the conspiracy, but Jinwoo knew that evidence alone wouldn't be enough. Are your people ready? Silvara asked as they walked through the station's corridors. Jinwoo checked his secure communicator. Across the galaxy, humans in positions that aliens had ignored for years were standing by. They're ready. And you're certain this will work? No, Hyunai said honestly. But doing nothing guarantees that billions of humans will die. This is our only chance to save our species. The council chamber was enormous, with seating for thousands of representatives. Today, only a few hundred were present, but they included leaders from all the major galactic powers. Hyunai recognized Keth trade ministers, Vorthak military commanders, and Yilani intelligence directors among the crowd. When their turn came to speak, Jinwoo and Hyunai walked to the center of the chamber. The translation system would carry their words to every species present, But they knew words alone wouldn't convince anyone. "Honored representatives," Jinwoo began, "we come before you with evidence of a conspiracy that threatens not just humanity, but the stability of galactic civilization itself." He activated a holographic display that showed the financial records, shipping manifests, and attack patterns they had discovered. The evidence clearly demonstrated that companies owned by Council member species had funded biological weapons research and coordinated attacks on human settlements. This data proves that individuals within your own governments have been systematically exterminating human colonies, Hyune continued. But they haven't stopped with humans. They've been using human settlements as testing grounds for weapons designed to kill any species that might cooperate with us. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Representatives began shouting at each other in multiple languages. Some denied the accusations, while others demanded immediate investigations. The chamber filled with the sound of angry voices and accusatory gestures. "This is obviously fabricated," declared Councillor Vex Morin of the Keth Mercantile Union. "Humans lack the intelligence to gather such complex information. The evidence speaks for itself," Silvar replied firmly. "These documents were verified by Yilani intelligence analysis. They are authentic." "Even if the documents are real," interrupted General Thakmor of the Vorthak High Command, "they prove nothing except that some criminals were conducting illegal research. This has nothing to do with our governments." Jinwoo had expected this response. Denial and deflection were standard political tactics when faced with inconvenient truths. "We know that words and evidence aren't enough," he said, his voice carrying over the noise. "So we've prepared a demonstration of what humans are really capable of." At that exact moment, synchronized actions began across the galaxy. The timing was perfect, coordinated through the human network that had been building in secret for years. On Keth Prime, Donghyun revealed his true expertise as a former Earth military engineer. For 3 years, he had worked as a maintenance technician in the Planetary Defense Center, ignored and dismissed by his Keth supervisors. Now he used his access to shut down the planet's defense grid and broadcast evidence of the conspiracy from every communication system on the world. On Vorthak Stronghold 7, Myung had served as a translator for diplomatic meetings, treated as nothing more than a living translation device. The Vorthak had never suspected that she was recording everything and analyzing their military strategies. She now used her knowledge to broadcast classified communications that proved high-ranking Vorthak officers were directly involved in the human extermination program. On Yilani Nexus, Taeho had worked in medical research, cataloging biological samples that researchers considered too routine to examine personally. He revealed that those samples included tissue from human attack victims, proving that Yilani scientists had been studying the effectiveness of their biological weapons on living subjects. The revelations came so fast that council representatives couldn't process them all. Every major world in the galaxy was simultaneously receiving proof of the conspiracy from humans who had been invisible servants just moments before. "This is impossible," shouted a Keth representative. "Humans don't have the organizational capacity for this kind of coordinated operation." "That's exactly what we were counting on you believing," Hyune replied calmly. "You've been so convinced of our inferiority that you never noticed us learning your languages, studying your technology, and building communication networks across your worlds." The evidence continued pouring in from across the galaxy. Humans working in shipping companies revealed the exact routes used to transport biological weapons. Humans in communication centers showed how raiders received intelligence about target locations. Humans in research facilities exposed the laboratories where species-specific weapons were developed and tested. But the real revelation, Jinwoo announced as the chaos in the chamber reached its peak, isn't what we've discovered about your conspiracy. It's what we've proven about human capabilities. A new image appeared on the holographic display, a network spanning the galaxy, connecting thousands of human workers who had been dismissed as insignificant. The network revealed an astonishing truth. Humans had been quietly maintaining and improving galactic infrastructure for decades. Every shipping route you depend on, every communication system you use, every life support system that keeps your stations running, Hyune explained to the stunned assembly. Humans have been working on them, fixing them, upgrading them. We've been holding your civilization together while you treated us like disposable animals. The implications hit the representatives like a physical shock. If humans were suddenly removed from their positions throughout the galaxy, entire systems would collapse. Transportation networks would fail, communication would break down, medical facilities would shut down, food distribution would stop. Your economies depend on human labor, Jinwoo continued. Your militaries depend on human support staff. Your research facilities depend on human assistance. Your very survival depends on people you've been treating as slaves. What do you want? Asked Counselor Zilnara of the Yelani Confederation, her voice shaking with the realization of how vulnerable her people had become. We want the conspiracy stopped and those responsible brought to justice, Hyune replied. We want the biological weapons program shut down permanently. And we want humans recognized as equal partners in galactic civilization, not property to be bought and sold. And if we refuse? General Thakamore demanded, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Jinwoo's expression remained calm, but his words carried unmistakable weight. Then you'll discover what happens when the people who maintain your infrastructure decide to stop helping you voluntarily. The threat was clear without being explicit. Humans weren't demanding submission through force. They were simply pointing out the reality of interdependence that had developed over decades of integration. You thought you were buying slaves. Jinwoo addressed the chamber, looking directly at representatives who had profited from the slave trade. But you were actually buying partners. The difference is that we chose to help you anyway, even while you treated us as less than animals. The chamber fell silent as the full magnitude of the situation became clear. The conspiracy to exterminate humanity hadn't just been morally wrong, it had been practically suicidal for galactic civilization. Commander Silvara stepped forward to address her fellow representatives. The choice before us is simple, she said. We can continue to treat humans as enemies and slaves and watch our civilization collapse. Or we can recognize them as the essential partners they've always been and build something better together. The vote that followed would determine the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The days following Jinwoo and Hyune's revelation to the Galactic Council were unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Within hours of their presentation, emergency meetings were being called on every major world as the true scope of human integration into alien society became clear. The evidence was impossible to deny. The conspiracy to exterminate humanity involved the highest levels of government and business across multiple species. But even more shocking was the discovery that galactic civilization had become completely dependent on human workers who had been treated as slaves and servants. The implications are staggering, reported Admiral Kethval to the emergency session of the Keth Mercantile Council. Our entire shipping network is maintained by human technicians. If they were to stop working, trade would collapse within days. Similar reports came from every major species. The Vorthak discovered that their military bases couldn't function without human support staff, who maintained everything from weapon systems to food preparation. The Yelani found that their research facilities depended on human assistants who understood complex procedures better than many alien scientists. How did we become so dependent without realizing it? Demanded General Takmor during an emergency meeting of Vorthak military leaders. Because we refused to see them as anything more than tools, admitted Colonel Voronik. We never paid attention to what they were actually doing, as long as the work got done. On the Galactic Council station, Jinwoo and Hyunai found themselves at the center of a diplomatic revolution. Representatives who had dismissed humans as barely intelligent just days before now demanded meetings and negotiations. Dr. Kim, said Counselor Vexmoran, approaching them with obvious nervousness, the Keith Mercantile Union would like to discuss formal recognition of human technical expertise and establish proper working relationships. The same mercantile union that helped fund the biological weapons program, Hyune replied coldly. Those were rogue operations, Vexmoran insisted. The union leadership had no knowledge of such activities. Your financial records say otherwise, Jinwoo pointed out. The funding came from accounts that required council approval. Vexmoran's forearms moved in what humans had learned was a gesture of extreme discomfort. Like representatives from other species, he was discovering that humans had been paying much more attention to alien behavior and records than anyone had realized. The conspiracy began collapsing rapidly as investigators followed the evidence provided by human operatives. Arrest warrants were issued for government officials, corporate executives, and military officers across multiple species. The biological weapons laboratories were shut down and their research destroyed. But the most significant change was in attitudes. Species that had viewed humans as primitive animals began to understand that they had been living alongside sophisticated partners whose contributions had been essential to their survival. "We made a fundamental error," admitted Dr. Yilnara, a leading Yilani xenopsychologist, during a broadcast interview. "We assumed that physical strength and lifespan determined intelligence and value. We never considered that cooperation and adaptability might be more important than individual power." The transformation wasn't immediate or easy. Generations of prejudice couldn't be erased overnight. But necessity forced change faster than diplomacy ever could. On Keth Prime, when Dong Hyun briefly shut down the planetary defense grid to prove human capabilities, the planet was left vulnerable for 6 hours until Keth engineers begged him to restore the systems. They discovered that their most advanced technology had been modified and improved by human technicians in ways that Keth engineers couldn't understand, let alone repair. "We need you," Councillor Zephyrian Kickstall admitted during a private meeting with other council leaders. "We've become dependent on human expertise without even realizing it. If we continue to treat them as enemies, we'll destroy ourselves." On Vorthak military bases, human medics had been quietly implementing treatment protocols that saved lives more effectively than traditional Vorthak medicine. When several bases tried to replace human staff with Vorthak personnel, casualty rates increased dramatically. "Their medical knowledge is superior to ours in many areas," reported Chief Medical Officer Doc Thara. "They understand injury treatment and disease prevention in ways that our specialists are still trying to learn." The breakthrough moment came when a Yilani research station experienced a critical system failure that threatened to destroy years of important scientific work. The Yilani scientists couldn't solve the problem, but Tae Ho, the human assistant they had barely acknowledged, fixed it in 20 minutes using techniques he had developed during his years of ignored observations. "He saved our entire research program," reported Station Director Siltek. "Work that would have taken us decades to rebuild. And he did it using methods that we never would have thought to try." 3 months after the council presentation, fundamental changes had swept across galactic civilization. The slave markets were permanently shut down, and the trafficking of any sentient beings became a capital crime under galactic law. More importantly, humans began receiving recognition for their actual contributions to society. Hyunei stood in the same auction hall where she had been sold as worthless property just months earlier. But now it was being converted into a memorial for victims of the extermination conspiracy. Human and alien workers labored side by side to install memorial plaques honoring those who had died. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," she said to Jinwoo as they watched the construction. "Sometimes change happens gradually over centuries," Jinwoo replied, "and sometimes it happens all at once when people finally see the truth. We were lucky to be part of the second kind. Do you think it will last? This new respect for humanity?" Jinwoo considered the question carefully. Respect based on fear usually doesn't last long, but respect based on mutual benefit and understanding has a much better chance. Commander Silvara approached them, now wearing the uniform of the new Interspecies Cooperation Council. "The final vote just came through," she announced with a smile. The Human Integration Protocol passed by 91%. The protocol officially recognized humans as equal citizens of galactic civilization, with full rights and protections under galactic law. It also established the Human Integration Council to help other species understand humanity's unique capabilities and facilitate better cooperation. "What happens now?" Hyunei asked. "Now we build something better," Jinwoo replied. "A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of exploitation, understanding instead of prejudice." "And if some species refuse to accept the new order?" Silvara's expression became serious. "Then they'll learn that the galaxy works much better with human partnership than without it. Several worlds have already experienced what happens when human workers go on strike. The economic disruption was educational." As they prepared to leave the station, Hyunei reflected on their incredible journey. In less than a year, she had gone from being sold as worthless property to helping establish humanity's rightful place in galactic society. "You know," she said to Jinwoo as they boarded the ship that would take them to Earth. No one wanted to bid on me at that auction. There was one bidder, Jinwoo reminded her, and that was enough to start a revolution. The ship pulled away from the station and headed toward Earth, where Hyunai would help establish the headquarters of the Human Integration Council. Behind them, the galaxy continued its transformation, learning to see humanity not as slaves to be exploited, but as essential partners whose greatest strength lay in their ability to find value and potential, where others saw only weakness. The age of human slavery was over. The age of true galactic cooperation had begun, built on the foundation of mutual respect and the understanding that every species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, had something valuable to contribute to the future they would build together. In the end, the conspiracy to exterminate humanity had failed, not because humans were stronger or smarter than their enemies, but because they had something their enemies lacked: the ability to work together across impossible distances and the willingness to help others, even when they received nothing in return. These qualities, dismissed as weakness by those who sought to destroy them, had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization that would endure for generations to come.